Now, onto election news. We have Iowa. It is in 11 days. God, it's crazy because the Iowa caucus is like a holiday for me. I'm the biggest election junkie you have. I put on my favorite candidate shirt. I sit down with some beer and I watch it on like as many monitors as I can scrounge up. I'll ask all my roommates for all their laptops. I'll have like 5 things in front of me watching everything, you know? And now I really don't care about the Iowa caucus because it's so obvious.
Huge letdown.
It is a huge. I only get so many of these in my life, and this one is so boring that I'm just so disappointed by it.
Yeah.
But I want to go a little bit into Trump's strategy and how he's going to win the Iowa caucus, or at least how I think he's going to win. He's going to win. But it's really, really interesting because he had a lot of trouble in Iowa back in 2016. This is one of the states where he lost to Ted Cruz. He lost to Ted Cruz by like 5 points or so. And this is even when Trump was leading in the Iowa polls by 5 points over Ted Cruz. And I think that's a really interesting thing. So this is like one of the only early states that might not go for Trump. Trump did pretty okay in New Hampshire and did great in all the other states, but Iowa was his struggling point. So after he lost in 2016, he decided that he needed to change strategies. But I also want to go into his loss in 2016 for a brief second here and talk about the psyche of this man. Right after the Iowa caucus of 2016, he said that Ted Cruz stole it. He said that Ted Cruz cheated. He said that Ted Cruz sent out faulty mailers saying that Ben Carson had dropped out of the race and blah, blah, blah. That part was even before the Iowa caucus. So he was accusing his opponents of cheating before the Iowa caucus happened. And then after he lost, he said that the results were phony and that it was stolen by the Republican Party because the Republican Party didn't want him to win. So he's been doing this since day one, guys. This is nothing new for him. He's been trying to say that elections have been stolen from him forever. So
I feel like I've never seen a person who hates losing so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never seen someone who's so small. That's how I look at it. He's so small that he cannot accept defeat, you know? But he is changing his strategy in this Iowa 2020. He is doing a lot to make sure he wins this state. And the way he's doing it is extremely smart and actually shows to how well his 2024 presidential campaign might be run. He has amassed a massive voter database in Iowa over these last 8 years. He has an in-depth machine that has identified all of the people who voted for him in 2016 and 2020 who did not caucus for him in 2016 and are sending them a barrage of text messages to remind them to vote.
Such a crazy undertaking.
I know.
An enormous effort.
And I think it's a brilliant idea.
You do?
Yeah, if you can actually slice down and find the exact voters who didn't vote for you this time but voted for you then, and you can send them just targeted ads, targeted mail, targeted texts.
Yes.
I think that works.
I absolutely think it works too. The question is the cost. And
Yeah.
the only reason that it wouldn't be worth it is if you're already almost certainly going to win Iowa by at least 10 points.
Right.
That's
So like, is he just wasting his money on something he's going to win by 10 points anyway?
Yeah.
Like, that's a good point.
But that's why I think it's kind of an ego thing. Like, to me, it rings that the Cruz loss, right, in 16 is resonating with him, and he wants to be absolutely certain that doesn't happen.
It did something to him. That loss did something.
Yeah.
Like, he knows deep down he lost. But he's also, with this strategy, he's actually saving some money as a traditional campaign because he's not doing door knocking pretty much at all. He's avoiding door knocking entirely. He's just not doing it. But because he has such this in-depth voter reach capability that not DeSantis, not Nikki Haley has, he thinks that'll overdo it. He has accumulated. What's up?
Do we know how he has that information?
I don't. I have no idea how campaigns get all that information.
That's a ton of data.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
I know, right? Isn't that so interesting?
Yeah.
I would love to be a part of that operation, dude. That would be crazy. So Trump, to see his momentum, he has accumulated 1,800 caucus captains. To put this in perspective, there's only 1,600 caucus locations. He has more captains than there are locations in Iowa.
That's insane.
And also, each one of these captains get a golden tinted Make America Great Again hat that they're going to wear on the caucus floor, which is so cheesy, dude. It's so cheesy. But again, the strategy is genius. Each of these captains was given a list of 25 people who live in their town who are possible Trump caucusers, but have never caucused before.
Wow.
And the captain's job is to get 10 of those 25 to get to the caucus location.
Wow.
That is genius.
Yeah.
That you can literally say, these are your 25 neighbors who did not vote for me. Go get them.
As someone who works in advertising, like that is exactly what you would want.
Yeah.
The ROI on that strategy would be so high.
No, it's absolutely insane. It really is. Kristi Noem, she is the governor of South Dakota. She is a possible Trump pick for vice president. She's on her way to Iowa to campaign for Trump, as well as Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene coming to my town would obviously do nothing for me, but apparently the guys in Iowa like that. So that is what it is.
Yeah.
Now, DeSantis and Haley just don't have this data. They don't have the capability to run this type of campaign. And they are running expensive and intricate door-knocking campaigns that are less precise but have more of a human connection. And I'm curious to see which one is more effective. If from my perspective, if Trump underperforms the polls, I think that is a positive for door-knocking. And then if he exceeds the polls, it's a negative for door knocking, positive for this targeted ad stuff.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. It's kind of like, is awareness the main problem that you have to solve, or is consideration and understanding of the person's platform?
Yeah.
Like, which is the more important thing to get at this stage of a primary, right?
But I also have to say, Trump's strategy of the caucus captains might be able to get that human connection that door knocking has. Because if one of your neighbors is coming up and really making it a point to reach out to you, I feel like that's more effective than anything Nikki Haley or DeSantis could ever do.
True. I mean, that's kind of what I thought about when you said 1,800 caucus captains. It's almost like if you had one person in every friend group in the constituency that you were targeting, to talk to their friends about you as a candidate. That is the best possible scenario.
Yep. That was the whole strategy behind Bernie's 2020 presidential campaign. He had this thing called the Burn app, and you would download the Burn app on your phone, and you would log the number of friends you talked to every day about Bernie. And you would log the conversations you had with them, what policies you talked about, what were they most excited about, and then you would log how many friends you had. And then on election days, it would send you push notifications to make sure all your friends voted, and it would have check marks next to all your friends, so you could check off if they voted or not.
That's wild.
Yeah, that Bernie Sanders presidential campaign was very, very intense with that young voter outreach. It didn't work.
It's crazy that it didn't work. Did it only not work because the rest of the Democrats rallied around Biden at the last second? Because I've heard that account before.
So I think it's a mixture of both.
Okay.
I think if Bernie were to have, if Elizabeth Warren were to have dropped out and endorsed Bernie
instead of Biden,
she didn't drop out at all.
Oh,
she stayed in for Super Tuesday, which split the progressive vote a lot. Right. I think the Democratic primary would have been a lot closer if Elizabeth Warren had dropped out with the rest of the moderates. I don't blame the moderates for dropping out. I don't think it was a grand conspiracy or anything like that. It definitely wasn't. It's the obvious move. I mean, if you're Pete Buttigieg, you'd rather be in a Biden administration than a Sanders administration.
Okay.
If you're Amy Klobuchar, you'd want a Biden presidency over a Bernie presidency.
Okay.
And the same way I would have wanted Elizabeth Warren to drop out and endorse Bernie, the Biden people would have felt the same way.
Sure.
But it was just a really interesting campaign season. I think it would have been a lot closer, maybe 60-40 instead of the 70-30 that it turned out to be.
Okay. But still Biden would have won.
Yeah. Still Biden would have won. I just don't think the American people were ready for a Bernie Sanders presidency yet at the end of the day. I just don't think they were. I think they will be one day, and that's my belief.
Sure.
Obviously a different man, not Bernie, but somebody like him.
Yeah.
And I think eventually. An AOC, maybe.
Yeah.
She's just you know what it is? She is such a known quantity already.
Sure.
And Bernie Sanders had such an amazing political moment in 2016 because he was not a known quantity. He was the independent from Vermont that nobody really knew. But once he started talking, you're like, oh wait, I like everything this guy's saying. And then he was like a pretty normal, good dude. And he hadn't been attacked and berated by the media. But AOC has already been attacked and berated by the media.
True.
And so much in politics is about having a fresh face. That's why Obama was so popular in 2008, was because he was only a senator for 2 years. He was only a state senator for a couple years before that. I mean, his turnaround from doing Obama's turnaround from doing the keynote speech in 2004 for John Kerry's nomination at the DNC, and then to 2008 becoming president, is an extremely fast turnaround.
Yeah.
And because he didn't have all those years of getting berated was why he was popular. I think the same thing with Bernie.
Okay.
You know, now I feel like the next progressive icon is someone that we don't know yet.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, like the next presidential progressive that's going to run is somebody that we don't know or even think about yet, because it's someone who can sell himself as a new, fresh face and avoid all the partisan attacks that have been going on forever.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah.